There have been some big developments in the sexual abuse lawsuit filed against Prince Andrew. A federal judge is wanting to hear from some people, and they're asking authorities in the UK and Australia to help facilitate some depositions. The judge wants to hear testimony from Prince Andrew's former assistant, Robert Olnoy, and an eyewitness, Shukri Walker, I believe is how you say her name, who claims that she saw Prince Andrew at a nightclub around the same time Virginia Giuffre claims that she was abused by the prince. Now, Walker claims that she saw Prince Andrew with a young girl around the time that Virginia Giuffre claims that Prince Andrew abused her in London after visiting, believe it or not, the nightclub is called Tramp Nightclub. Yes, that's the actual name of the nightclub. They're going to want to figure out if that young girl was in fact Virginia Giuffre. So they're trying to connect the dots. I want to talk to her. Did you see Virginia Giuffre with Prince Andrew at Tramp Nightclub? That is what they're going to be trying to figure out and trying to connect the timeline and all the dots to see if that is in case that is in fact what happened. Now, on the flip side of this, Prince Andrew's attorneys asked the judge for assistance from Australian authorities to gain testimony from Giuffre's husband and her psychologist, who both apparently live in Australia. So Andrew's legal team, they're intent on disputing Giuffre's claims that she made about him. Clearly is going to try to go with, well, she's crazy, kind of a defense there. Like, look, she's mentally unstable. Don't think about the photographs you might have seen or the eyewitness testimonies or the dozens of other women who've come forward saying that they were unfortunate victims in Jeffrey Epstein's sex ring. Don't think about all of that. She's crazy. She's clearly crazy. Like what? She's making it all up. I don't know what he's going to try to claim, but Virginia Giuffre has repeatedly said that Prince Andrew had sex with her at least 3 times as an underage teen in New York, London, and on Jeffrey Epstein's island. And of course, in statements filed, Andrews is denying all the allegations against him. He's also denied being close friends with Ghislaine Maxwell in a legal response to Giuffre. And in the 11-page court document filed last week, Prince Andrew's legal team listed a number of reasons why they believe that her civil lawsuit should be dismissed. And it's important to remember that this is a civil lawsuit. This is not criminal. So she's suing him basically, and he can either settle and, I don't know actually if Prince Andrew's going to be able to get away with settling, because if he settles, it's almost admitting guilt, and that's not going to be so great for him or the royal family. At the same time, if he takes this to court and he is found guilty, then that's another, that's also not so great. So he might end up needing to risk it. In this particular situation, it's pretty tricky. But one factor that they're asking the court to consider is, believe it or not, the issue of consent. So this is Prince Andrew's one of his defenses. He's saying that, according to the court filings, says, assuming without admitting that Giuffre has suffered any injury or damage alleged in the complaint, Giuffre's claims are barred by the doctrine of consent. So he's going with the defense of consent, saying, well, okay, I'm not going to say it happened, but if it did happen, then she would have consented to this. And so they would have to then look at every area where they think that this might have actually happened. So she's claiming that the sex happened 3 times, right? So she's saying London, New York, and on Jeffrey Epstein's private island. So they're going to have to look at each of those places and figure out, what is the age of consent? How old was she during these instances? And even if she was underage in some of the instances, are those the instances that they can prove where the sex actually happened, if that makes sense? So maybe they can only prove that it happened one time in London because that is where the one eyewitness saw Prince Andrew and maybe Virginia Giuffre at Tramp Nightclub. And so they can maybe prove that it happened in London, but what's the age of consent in London? Maybe the age of consent is 16 and she was 17 at the time. So that is what his legal team is going to be playing at. Again, I don't think Prince Andrew is going to be able to get out of this trial very easily. I mean, he can't settle. Normally, these cases settle. That's like 99% of the cases settle in civil court. But in this particular situation, if he settles, that is admitting guilt, and he's not going to want to admit guilt. Now, remember, Virginia Giuffre successfully sued Epstein, and she was able to get, I believe, $500,000 from Epstein. And remember, in that lawsuit, they put that she couldn't go after any of his named or unnamed associates that were involved in all of this. And the judge threw that out when And Prince Andrew's defense team said, hey, he's protected under this previous lawsuit that was filed, that she had won, that she'd settled, we should say, with Epstein. He's protected because he wasn't a named associate, but he's one of the unnamed associates that they were pointing to. The New York judge said that doesn't count here. That was settled in Florida. This is New York. We didn't agree to that, so we're not going to agree to that. She can still come after you. That was a loss for Prince Andrew. So now the fact that he's able to be sued in this civil suit, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you know of a way of how he could get out of, maybe a workaround. I mean, I don't think anybody wants him to get away with what he's done. I don't think anybody wants anybody involved in the Epstein ring to get away with what they've done. I think we would like to see more people be held accountable for their actions, but it is what it is when it comes to these powerful and rich people that have, they have like football teams sized legal teams. So is there another way for him to get out of this and save face and not, somehow come out innocent? I'm not certain if there is a way, but maybe you know of a way. Maybe you can email it into me, Kim@KimIversen.com, and tell me, what do you think might be some workaround? But otherwise, I think he is royally screwed. And pun intended, I suppose. But I will keep you updated on the latest of what is going on in the Prince Andrew case and the latest with other things in regards to the Epstein scandal, Ghislaine Maxwell, and everything that's going on with her, and whether or not other people are being investigated or being, I don't know if they're being investigated because, again, these are civil suits, but at least maybe gone after. It'd be nice to know if there's more people, because there have been many others named. So it'd be nice to know if anyone else is being held accountable for this entire big ring. But really, we would love to get to the bottom of the whole thing in general. I mean, it's one thing to go after people. It's one thing to hold them accountable. We want that, but we really want to know who was behind the entire ring to begin with. And many of us have had our suspicions for a long time that this was actually, like an intelligence operation. So just throwing that out there before I sign off here. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you would like to join me in my locals community, that is where I do locals only live streams that are casual. Also do a lot of other content, and you can interact with one another. It's a really cool place to be. That is how you can support this channel. This channel has been heavily censored for a while. From the beginning of the pandemic. I do have a warning on the channel, which means they don't really pump out my content and put it out in front of people as much as they would otherwise. And so the way you can support this channel is by joining my locals community. So thank you so much. That link is down below.